Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the July 9th, 2024 Committee of Adjustment meeting. In accordance with section 44(1) of the Planning Act, the Council of the Township of Rainier has appointed this Committee of Adjustment to hear applications for variances to the zoning bylaw and applications for consent to sever lands. The members of this committee are private citizens who are not members of council, nor are they employees. Committee members are provided with information about each application prior to the public hearing to enable them to review the sections of the township bylaws which are relevant to make a site visit if needed. No discussion of applications occurred, nor will any decisions be made outside of the public hearing. The procedure for hearing applications is as follows. The Secretary Treasurer will describe the application and the extent of its processing to date. The applicant or agent will be asked for his/her comments. Members of the audience will be asked for their comments. The applicant may then provide further information, and then committee members will provide questions or comments to be followed by the decision of the committee. A written copy of the notice of decision will be sent to the applicant and anyone who provides the Secretary Treasurer with a written request, including their full name and address. Decisions of the committee may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant, minister, or a specified person or public body. The procedures include with the notice of decision, and if you wish to be advised of a possible Ontario Land Tribunal hearing, you must request in writing a copy of this committee's decision. Once the application has been heard by the committee and the 20-day appeal period has ended, the application sign should be removed from your property. This sign can be returned to the township for reuse or recycling. Now I will introduce the committee. To my left is Dan Walker and Dan McMillan. And to my right is Randy Warren. Secretary Treasurer Carissa Barker, Assistant Secretary Treasurer Jennifer Stone, who's not present, and Planning Assistant Tia Graham. And I am Chloe Black. Please address all comments to the chair and ensure all cell phones are silenced to ensure that an orderly meeting is maintained. Today's meeting is being streamed live. I guess, do I have to say that?
I guess today is not, it's being recorded.
Okay, today's meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube later. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or secretary treasurer have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of the debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their action results in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and is also being live streamed, and that all/some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you, and that take care not to screen share your computer if anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Okay, now we will move to section 3, disclosure of pecuniary interests. Do any of the committee members have a conflict of interest to declare with either of the agenda?
None, my part. Nope.
Okay, seeing none, we will move on to section 4. Would the Secretary Treasurer please discuss agenda item 4.1 to outline the application and provide an update on the circulation to date? Thank you.
And do we have the person on Zoom? I believe they were.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we will be discussing file A924 for 5212 Prospect Avenue. So a minor variance application has been submitted by a Warren Planning Development agent requesting relief from the minimum high water mark setback and the yard projections provision in order to allow for the construction of a new single-family dwelling with attached decking and a front porch. And this proposal will require variances to the minimum high water mark setback on the east, as well as yard projections to the minimum high water mark setback to the east as well. And then minimum high water mark setback on the west, as well as yard projections to minimum high water mark on the west, to allow for a dwelling, covered porch, and the variances required are shown on the table. with requests of variances by 6.3 meters for the dwelling on the east, 4.5 meters for the covered porch on the east, 6.5 meter variance to the dwelling on the west setback, as well as 10.3 meter variance to the west setback for the covered and uncovered deck. And then just some site plan imagery here. The subject lot is at the southern tip of Prospect Avenue and abuts the Lake Couchiching, which is a key hydrologic feature, as well as the Afterlee Sucker Creek wetland complex, which is a provincially significant wetland and is part of the natural heritage system. The property is designated greenlands in the county's official plan, is designated shoreline residential according to township zoning bylaw, as well as designated shoreline residential according to the township's official plan. Considering the proximity of the dwelling to the average high water mark, due diligence is required under the provincial policy statement 2020 and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe to ensure there are no risks or mediated risks of being located so close to the water. Due diligence should include a natural hazard assessment to demonstrate that any hazards associated with placing the dwelling in relation to the water are addressed, and a natural heritage evaluation to demonstrate that no negative impacts will occur to the key hydrologic feature as well as the provincially significant wetland. The application as presented presently does not provide information to verify whether the proposed development would have any negative impacts on the provincially significant wetland and the key hydrologic feature, which would be in order to satisfy the 4 tests under section 45(1) of the Planning Act. Sufficient information does need to be provided to resolve if the application is minor, is desirable for the appropriate development of the lands, conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw, and conforms to the general intent of the official plan. It is recommended that the Committee of Adjustment defers this application until the following are produced: a natural heritage evaluation, natural hazard assessment, and a revised planning justification report based on the updated studies. The suggested motion would be that the Committee of Adjustment receive report EP 2724, published in the July 9, 2024 meeting agenda, and that minor variance application A924 be deferred for up to 18 months to allow the applicant time to provide the additional information inclusive of natural heritage evaluation, environmental impact study, natural hazard assessment, and the updated planning justification report. And the alternatives are that the committee could deny or approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. So now we will go to the applicant or the representative. I believe we have Vanessa from Morgan Planning and Development on Zoom. Would you like to make any further comments, Vanessa?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and committee members, as well as staff. I'm not going to say too much. I just wanted to let you know that I'm here if you have any questions. Myself and Josh have met with staff. We've reviewed the staff report. We understand staff's position, and we are working towards completing the studies required. So we will be back to the committee hopefully in a few months with the completion of those studies, and I can present more information to you at that time. Again, if you have any questions for me, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll let you proceed.
All right. Is there any other persons in attendance here on Zoom who wish to make a comment? No, don't see any none. I will go to the committee members then. Randy, would you like to start?
Well, I went to this property twice, but I read the report. I went once, I went back for another quick look this morning. I know the township has to follow the rules of the upper tier municipalities, but as far as I'm concerned, I know they want these studies done, but it just seems like we're being over-regulated. I look at this lot, the trees are all around the shoreline, they're holding the shoreline, there's lots of elevation because Couchiching is regulated with the water level. There's lots of elevation above the water line. If they're building, I think a lot of those problems could be mitigated during the building process by putting your silt fencing all around so that nothing gets into the lake. And I really feel these studies are really not necessary, and I would be willing to approve the project the way it is with certain conditions that go with the building process to mitigate any risks. That's just my feeling. I'll let the rest of the committee have their view on it too.
Thank you. I'll go to Dan Walker now.
Well, it sounds like they wanna have some time to do those tests and come back to committee. I don't see a problem with that either.
Okay. Dan, no?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of on the same thoughts as a member here. I'm not sure what's gonna change after all these studies are done. It's an existing dwelling on the property, the landowners wanna tear it down and rebuild, build something better, which is better for the township as a whole. What they're proposing is gonna be quite substantial, and then the township's not gonna have no extra burden to service that lot. Everything's there, there's been a new septic in, one of my questions was, has it been updated to the new size of the new proposed dwelling? It has, she's not, okay. And like I say, I'm not sure what these studies are gonna prove. They can say, okay, what you can't build, well, I think the landowner has a right, if the dwelling's there, whether the dwelling burns down or he tears it down, to rebuild it. And I'm on the same feeling, I don't think these other studies are necessary. And I would be in support of any approval, and then in the staff report, it says subject to a site plan control, and that would be addressed during the building stages as Andy would say.
Does Tom need to hear the presentation to the comment?
If I may through the chair, Tom, have you had time to review the first application for 512 Prospect?
I've read a fair bit of it, but not the whole thing,
Okay,
okay? So,
would you be at this point looking to just abstain from the vote?
yeah, I'll do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Okay, everybody.
Okay, so to Vanessa, so the owners have already started the studies then?
Through the chair, no, the owners have not started the studies yet. We're working on retaining some proposals. So we were anticipating to start the studies likely early next week.
Okay,
That's kind of where we're at. It's just taken a little bit of time to get the other consultants organized with preparing some fee proposals. Nothing's been started.
so Secretary Treasurer, would you be able to provide some insight as to why, like, what's the goal with the studies?
So the ultimate goal of the studies is to ensure compliance with the provincial policy and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. And ultimately, it's just looking for mitigation measures. It is provincially significant wetland that the property abuts. Yes, there is an existing dwelling, but it is being extended quite large. And essentially, the development application is triggered, and the natural heritage evaluation would assess any risks or mitigation measures to be taken. And then it would outline what needs to happen during the construction process to ensure that there's no negative impacts to the key hydrologic feature or the provincially significant wetland. And then the natural hazard evaluation would be assessing things like erosion, wave up brush, and just essentially just determining any risks or any flooding potential or things like that, as it is a dwelling that is going to be placed closer to the water under the growth plan and the provincial policy statement. Those are items that are required, anything within 120 meters. And staff are of the opinion that it is you know, it's new development, although there's an existing, it's going a lot larger and a lot closer, and just given that it is potentially significant wetland that it is abutting, staff need to ensure that you're recommending in alignment with the baseline policy of the province. Local policy may be more restrictive, but we need to ensure that at least the minimum standards of the province, that we are adhering to those policies. So that is why staff are recommending those. Ultimately, it's up to the committee on how they would like to proceed, whether they would like to defer, whether they would like to approve with, you know, any kind of conditions or anything else, but that's where staff stand on that.
So if the studies are done, do we decide, like, if the studies say, oh, the wave uprush is bad, we recommend shore wall be constructed? Do we have to put those conditions on the application when it comes back then, or are they just recommendations?
What would happen is once those studies are conducted, staff would receive and review those would, you know, be that material would also be provided to the committee to consider. With the recommendations of the studies is what staff would be recommending as conditions of the approval, just to ensure the orderly development and that, you know, years down the road, you're not running into issues. So staff would be taking any kind of the recommendations from the evaluations and including those in any recommendation for approvals.
Hearing that information, do either of you have different opinions?
I think my position is still about what I was originally. I think that all these risks can be mitigated it's under site plan control. And so that the building process is gonna have to follow that. And I'm certain that the building process will make certain that everything can be mitigated to prevent any silt or anything getting into the lake. The building is, from what I can see on the sketch, is gonna be sure it's closer to the lake, but the wetland is basically behind it. And so that's why I feel that it's not gonna be as great a risk to the wetland as what I know there's distances that they put within so many meters or whatever of this provincially significant wetland. These studies, as Mr. McMillan has already alluded to, they cost a lot, and when all is said and done, are we really gonna get anywhere with it? Are they gonna say you can't build there? And it's basically it's the owner's piece of property, and it's a beautiful piece of property. I can't think that not allowing a building process to be completed after we've got things undergoing. So I'm gonna move that we approve this application with the provisions that through site plan control, every effort is used to mitigate any possible runoff in any direction around the building process. So that's, I'll make a motion. If someone wants a second, fine. If not, it'll die.
If I may, the chair, to Member Warren, I just wanna highlight, site plan control is a process separate and before the building permit. And at site plan control, if the committee required that, those studies and everything would be triggered as it is a development application under the Planning Act. So I just wanna confirm that if the committee does add a condition of site plan control, that those studies would be required to be submitted as part of the complete application.
Okay.
So it's not, so building department would not be saying, oh, you have to have silt fencing and things like that. They wouldn't have any of those measures. So if the committee doesn't want the applicant to do site plan control, but they have mitigation measures, it's really up to the committee, but ultimately, site plan control, those studies will be required regardless. However, if the committee were to just, you know, approve just to the building permit stage, then those mitigation measures would not, like any mitigation measures that the committee's sees appropriate, should be included in the decision. That's anyways.
Okay, so I could
Note on that.
correct my motion by saying that any measures should be done through the building department process.
mitigation measures are not something that the building department is looking at. They're looking at building code and structure. They're not looking at environmental sensitivity or things like that.
So
that would be-
under zoning review, you guys would look
So,
for the
so the
studies, under
build-
site plan control?
building department does zoning reviews for just residential development, so they're just ensuring it meets the setbacks, things like that. But when you trigger an application under the Planning Act, those are development applications, and site plan control is an application under the Planning Act, which then pulls in the official plans and all of the applicable provincial policies. So, when the development applications are triggered, that's when, depending on whatever it is, that's when things like traffic impact studies or, natural heritage valuations, et cetera, depending on what the proposal is, that's when those things are required prior to building permit, right? So, ultimately, whatever the committee does decide, for the decision, just that the committee is deciding on the development of the land in the sense that any kind of protection of the natural features would be included in the decision.
Okay.
Which means that in any case, that if we were to approve it, then these studies would still have to be done? So are you saying that?
It's up to the committee on what, if they wanna go with staff recommendation for the recommended motion, or if committee wants to approve it with any type of condition. Or it's really up to the committee, but ultimately, if it's just approved and there are no conditions and it just goes to building permit, then studies or any mitigation measures will not be caught.
It's the site plan control being registered on title that will trigger it again, right? Which is a recommended motion.
It's currently not. I did note in the report that staff would, once reviewing those, also be recommending that, but currently the suggested motion was just deferral for up to
To get the
18 months
studies.
to get studies done. But
Because under a typical scenario, a single family dwelling doesn't get site plan control, does it?
no.
Okay.
Exactly,
Which would trigger the studies.
exactly,
So if we approve as is, no recommendations, it just goes to building permit.
exactly. So,
I thought that anything on the lakes and waterways was under site plan control.
Lake Simcoe Protection Plan for the LSRCA, so if you're regulated by LSRCA, they will have specific to Lake
But
Simcoe.
we're on Coos, and
Exactly,
that's the
and
difference.
so unless they're doing shoreline, like alteration in terms of docking or boulders, et cetera, it's not really something that M&R would be reviewing.
Okay. So your motion is to approve it, no recommended, no conditions,
I guess we'll have to leave it like that, yes.
send it to permit stage. Do I have a seconder?
That's something that.
Can I just, prior to, just be clear on the motion is that, that the subject application, or that the application be approved as presented? Is that the motion, or is there any conditions?
I think it's just.
It seems like we really can't put any conditions on, then if, like, we can't say the building department has to look after mediating any problems or anything like that. It seems it's just, we're just looking after the building process itself.
Yes, so if you are looking to add any mitigation measures, that is your opinion would be beneficial, you can include those within your decision. So if you require silt fencing or anything, but if you do, just approve.
Vanessa?
Sorry, I don't really want to add anything, but I was just wondering, if I may, Chair, if it goes straight to building permit, does the building like when the landowner goes to apply for the building permit, will they have to submit a lot grading plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say, like, potentially the lot grading plan is going to cover what the committee member is saying, where they talk about silt fencing and that sort of detail. That, from my understanding, that could be included within the lot grading plan. Typically, the civil engineer preparing a lot grading plan would demonstrate where silt fencing should be placed to ensure that, you know, there isn't that further encroachment or draining into the lake during the construction process, if that's what the committee member is maybe considering in the comments that have been provided. So that's something standard that the building department would ask for through the permit process. So you wouldn't have to add a recommendation. It's already captured. That lot grading plan's already captured in the building permit process.
So, yeah, so with the lot grading plans, under the zoning and grading application review, if it's within the Lake Simcoe protection plan, I am required, when I do my review, I flag for silt fencing and things like that. However, this property is not, so if the committee did want to add any kind of mitigation measures to the approval to ensure that that is included, it's really up to the committee on what the decision is, what they would like to see with the development and with the natural features.
Well, I would definitely like to see any building near the water that is silt fencing there, that if there's gonna be loose disturbed soil, you get heavy rain, you can get washes into the lake. That's my concern. That's
So,
my only concern about the whole application, is just making sure that we let the people build where they wanna build, but they need to mediate any problems that can cause by the building process. Yes.
so perhaps it sounds like the kind of mitigation measures, within the Lake Simcoe protection plan. It sounds like you're interested in having, mitigation measures, under that plan applied to this property.
That would, if you could spell that into my motion, that would be great, because that's basically my main concern.
Okay, thank you, member Warren. If I may, to the chair, is that the motion that you're looking to put forth, that the application be approved, with the condition that mitigation measures are taken to protect the.
I have to.
You're the one who has to put the motion forth.
Okay. My thoughts are, if the owners have already basically started the studies and they're not pushing back on them, then why not get them done? I feel like if we put mitigation measures in, these studies might potentially have came back and said they didn't have to do anything, so now we're making them do more than what they possibly would have done. It's a lot of unknowns right now. So if there's no pushback from the owners, I don't mind the application as it's been presented to us to defer it, but it's up to you guys.
Well, there's a motion that's been put forward, it'll either be accepted or denied.
Yeah, so can I put Randy's motion and then we'll vote on it? And then if I get unnumbered, then it goes through?
Okay.
No question.
So I'm gonna share my screen for a moment, just so that we can ensure that the motion being suggested that it's accurate for the record. So my understanding is that you're looking to approve the application as presented with mitigation measures. The mitigation measures that we require for the Lake Simcoe protection plan is keeping removal of vegetation, grading soil compaction to minimum necessary, removal of vegetation not to occur more than 30 days prior to grading construction, silt fencing and sediment control required during construction, silt fencing to be shown on the grading plan, and then seed exposed soils once construction is complete and the seasonal conditions permit. So those are the typical mitigation measures required for when you're developing on Lake Simcoe. So I don't know if
Is that gonna affect all the hardscaping work they have planned?
It's more just,
During construction.
Yeah.
Landscape after the fact.
Yeah, go
Happy?
Well,
Yep.
Dan has a
ahead. If these mitigation measures are put in place, who for the township enforces and the building inspector when they go out to inspect? It's the
Yes.
building inspector?
yes,
Okay. And now, just another further. In the building department report here, it tells us a new septic was installed 2023. And then it mentions the setback from the septic bed and the tank. Then it goes on to confirm that 0% of openings on the interior side yard. And when they say openings, what does that mean?
I'm just gonna look at that comment, just to.
And it says it'll be compliance with interior building code.
I'm just gonna look at that comment for the openings, I couldn't quite. So spatial separation, so for like fire combustion and things like that, there's spatial separation required to lot lines, and then percentage of openings on the interior side yard, so things like windows and doors, basically just to ensure that for drainage as well as fire separation, that those are accounted for and meet building code.
Thank you.
Do you want to retract your right to comment?
The only thing I'm gonna mention is, it's, okay. Is there shoreline work being done, actual shoreline work?
If there is, that would require to be regulated through the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry.
That's all I wanted to add,
So-
so if they're planning any short, it'll be taken care of by the MNR anyway.
But depending on the results of the risk hazard assessment, they may need to do shoreline, potentially, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's
the
all I
report
wanted to
might
add.
come back.
If they
and
do any
say-
shoreline work, the MNR will have to approve it anyways, so they would kind of take care of anything going back and anything going into the water or whatever.
So, I mean, the chair, ultimately, staff are recommending, staff's original recommendation is in alignment with provincial and local policy. However, it is the committee's decision to put forth whatever motion can all be agreed upon. So if
If I may, what's the likeliness of this getting appealed? Because I was gonna hold them up substantially.
So it would
If it gets
be,
appealed.
if the applicant appeals it, or a public body or specified person, neighboring, there was no neighboring comments.
Well, there was a supporting comment from a neighbor, which is good.
Yeah, like if we remove the requirement to get these studies done, what's the likeliness of that decision getting appealed then? Do you anticipate?
I can't say
Okay.
whether or not there would be,
Well, I
like,
mean,
I
like
just,
MNR or anybody who may care, I guess, it's their land, so.
yeah, I can't say whether or not there would be an appeal, but essentially the committee has a responsibility to make decisions in alignment with the Planning Act, and any kind of mitigation measures or decisions that the committee is making should consider the items outlined in the report. That is staff's stance as in terms of land use planning perspective.
Okay, so I'll put that motion on the floor then, that it be approved with the written mitigation requirements.
The legislative code
Yes.
requirements for mitigation.
Okay,
Okay. So that the application be approved, as presented with a condition of the following mitigation measures. Is that what the committee is looking to put forth?
Yes.
So now, sorry, I'm looking this.
That's okay, if that's the motion, so the motion that we have is that the application be approved as presented with the condition of the following mitigation measures, and then we kind of have, you know, everything that I've already written there and read. If the committee wants, or if you as chair want to put that motion forth, you may do so, and then see if anyone will move in second.
Okay. I'll put it forth.
Well, I've already made the motion and Dan is second, so
Okay.
basically it's just a matter of a vote, either yes or no.
Okay, so moved by member Warren, second by member Millen. And then do I say all in favor? So you're not voting?
Well, yeah, all in favor.
Look at what I'm
Yes, yes.
doing.
Okay, if it's a tie vote, it's a dead vote. That's,
Which means it'll automatically go to the deferred.
that would be the next move, then someone would make a motion to defer. So you have to call for the vote, it'll either be accepted or denied.
And did you vote for that motion as well?
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm making it out in my head. You'll go with that? Okay,
So there's
so then I'm outvoted anyway. Yeah, okay.
you can either, you can vote against it and it goes on record,
Okay. I'll probably vote against it
okay,
and then it'll be carried on.
okay, so we got 3 for and 1 against and 1 abstaining.
Okay.
On this particular.
Whew.
Well, good, I hope we made the right decision here today. I just felt that this was putting the owners to an awful lot of extra stuff to deal with, which might not give them good results in the end. It may be perfectly okay, but that's just my feeling anyways. And then I went and looked at this property twice, and I noticed how that nothing has changed in this property in the last 100 years, basically. It's all kinds of trees around the shoreline. It's well looked after, and it's up to the owner and the building department to mitigate any risks that could be in the building process. So that's my feeling on it. Okay, thank you, Chloe, for letting me speak.
No problem.
Thank
Okay,
you, committee.
All right, moving forward to item 4.2 for 2379 Concession Road HI. Secretary Treasurer, could you please present?
Okay, so we are discussing item 4.2 for 2379 Concession Road HI, file A824. Minor variance application has been submitted by Tanner Tickner, owner, requesting an increase in gross floor area for an additional residential unit recently constructed on the property under a demolition agreement with the building department. Due to a change in circumstances, the owner intends to maintain both dwellings on the property, and the proposal will require the following variance. This Romero zoning bylaw being section 238(1). Or sorry, 3. Additional residential unit. Additional residential unit size to be less than the gross floor area of a principal dwelling, so the proposed is 149 square meters, and the variance would be 75 square meters. In terms of this application, we just have a site plan here, just showing that existing dwelling as well as the new dwelling that was constructed. It's just that the existing is small. In terms of circulation comments, Ramirez Building Department commented no concerns and noted the septic systems combined will still be under the 10,000 liters a day. So there's no Ministry of Environment approvals needed. And then no further comments have been received to date. The property is designated greenlands in the county's info official plan, designated shoreline residential in the township's official plan, zone shoreline residential according to the township zoning bylaw. This proposal complies or otherwise does not conflict with the provincial policy statement 2020, provincial growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the county's info official plan, and staff are of the opinion that this proposal does not offend the intent of the township's official plan or the township zoning bylaw. This minor variance is requested due to the size of the dwelling and not the placement of the new additional residential unit. Ramirez zoning bylaw requires that additional residential units are a size that is less than the gross floor area of the principal dwelling. However, the existing dwelling is only 800 square feet. And the area constructed is about 1,600, so it's not terribly giant, it's more of an average sized house. And given the size of the principal dwelling, it's staff's opinion that the applicant's request for the committee to accommodate the large dwelling unit is appropriate to support a functional living space for a growing family and does satisfy the 4 tests under section 45(1) of the Planning Act. Should the committee find it appropriate to approve this minor variance, the following condition is recommended to be added to the approval, and that is that the applicant provide the planning department verification of the cancellation of the demolition agreement on the subject property. Should the committee find it appropriate to approve this minor variance application, the following reasons can be provided. The general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw will be maintained. The general intent and purpose of the official plan will be maintained. The requested variance is desirable for the appropriate development of the subject lands, and the requested variance is minor in nature.
Thank you. Do we have Tanner on Zoom?
I think he actually was here and I just left. I know he had work come up with staff shortages, but he was on and just left, I think.
Alright, so we don't have the applicant present. Are there any other persons in attendance?
I don't believe we have anyone else on Zoom looking to speak, is that correct? That's correct.
Okay. Okay, I'll open it up for the committee members then. Tom, would you like to say?
Okay, I went by and had a look, and I have no objection to their request.
Okay, thank you. Brandon?
Yeah, I went by as well, and the need for additional, now that we are allowing additional residential units in the township, I think this is a classic example with some renovations on that could be a nice little starter home for a young family for a rental unit. So I have no problems with that. I think it's a good way of providing housing, which we're definitely short of in this province, anyways, at this time.
I also did a site visit and I had no concerns.
I went by too, had a site visit, and I have no problems with it at all. It's just, as I talked with Chris earlier, if the bigger house had been there first and then the smaller one, the owners wouldn't even be here and be for us. It's just that the smaller house was there at one time, they built a bigger one that's more functional, and like to say, the secondary dwelling, I have no issues at all with it. I just don't know the rationale in the bylaw of why it has to be size difference. Anyhow, I'd be supporting it as is with the conditions.
Perfect, yeah, I stopped by, I was just gonna ask, curious what they're gonna do with the second house, if they were gonna fix it up and use it, or, but it doesn't affect my decision, like Chris had mentioned, 1,600 square feet is a pretty standard house these days, so, I think it's reasonable. So I will put forth the recommended motion as presented on the staff report that the application be approved with the condition of canceling the demolition agreement. Moved by Dan, second by Tom, all in favor? That motion's carried. Thank you. And lastly, item 4.3, consent application for 4002 Joyce Avenue. Secretary Treasurer, can you please present?
Thank you. An application has been submitted by John Van Noort, agent requesting consent for the creation of one new lot. Subject property 4002 Joyce Avenue has a total land area of approximately 2.18 acres. The proposed severed lot has a total land area of approximately 0.37 acres, with the total land area of the retained lot being approximately 1.81 acres. The severed lot will have approximately 61 meters of lot frontage on the Cray Park Road, as well as approximately 19.8 meters of lot frontage on Joyce Avenue. And the retained lot will have approximately 65 meters of lot frontage onto Joyce Avenue. And then we just have the site plan. It's a little bit hard to see due to the size and presentation, but here is the land to be severed and then everything else to be retained. In terms of comments received from circulation, the building department has no concern. They do note care should be taken at time of planning proposed development to ensure well and future septic locations maintain the required setbacks. Dwelling size may be limited to a septic space and setbacks. Ramirez Infrastructure Department commented no concerns, and we received no further comments on the application to date. The subject lands are designated rural according to the county's official plan, designated shoreline residential according to the township's official plan, and their zone shoreline residential according to the township zoning bylaw. As per staff report BP 2324, this proposal complies or otherwise does not conflict with the PBS 2020, the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, the provincial growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and the county's Simcoe official plan. And staff are of the opinion that this proposal does not offend the intent of the township's official plan or the township's zoning bylaw. Provincial and local policy allow for lot creation in rural lands, provided that the rural character is recognized, preserved, and protected, and the subject property is an existing lot of record within an existing built-up shoreline area, and the proposed lot creation meets the existing character of the surrounding land. It maintains that character, and Ramirez official plan encourages infill development in the shoreline residential designation, provided that the lot creation proposed maintains the existing character of the area. The severed and retained lands meet the minimum lot frontage required within the shoreline residential zone, and this proposal for new lot creation doesn't create any zoning infractions to either the severed or the retained lands. Should the committee find it appropriate to approve this consent application, the following conditions are recommended. So satisfying the requirements of the township, Vermeer financial and otherwise, including the payment of outstanding taxes and payment of a cash and lieu parkland fee, and the provisions of a registrable legal description on the parcel to be severed, together with an electronic copy of the applicable reference plan. The suggested motion is that the Committee of Adjustment receive report BP 2824, published the July 9th, 2024 meeting agenda, and that consent application G324 be approved with recommended conditions. And the alternative is that the committee could deny or defer the application.
Perfect. Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. I believe we have Johannes here. Would you like to make any comments?
The item of payment in lieu of parkland, how does that apply, or what?
So when there's a new lot created, generally if it's not just a boundary adjustment, but a brand new lot, the township and most municipalities will have a fee for a cash in lieu of parkland. So basically the Ramirez is $1,000, the cash in lieu of parkland fee. It's a standard condition that we put on all new lot creation, and essentially the township would hold that money and either put that for any kind of parkland work or parking, things like that. So that is something that the township collects, and most municipalities will collect upon creating a new lot.
Okay, I go by John.
Sounds good.
Do you have anything?
Well, I just have a question. Can be maybe.
You can ask now. Yeah.
Well, we just have an uncertain time frame to act further on the potentially severed portion of our property. So I was wondering if there's any kind of shelf life to the severance application, or or which is grandfatherable in case development on the severed portion might be in the future.
I can, through the chair, speak to that. So if the committee were to grant approval of this severance application today, what would happen next is we would prepare a notice of decision. The date that we send that notice, from that date for consent, there's a 20-day appeal period. Once that has passed, the decision is considered final. And basically you have 2 years to fulfill any conditions they impose. And from there, the lawyer would have up to 2 years to register. So 2 years to fulfill all the conditions, but the main ones is really just ensuring taxes are up to date, the cash and park plan, and getting that reference plan, so that staff can issue a certificate. But it, upon approval, and I believe the date of the decision, it's 2 years from that date. Yeah.
Any other charges that come along with it?
That would be everything in terms of township. I know you'll have your surveyor costs to get the reference plan completed. And any legal fees with getting the lot registered. But in terms of township, the consent application is a standard flat rate fee. And then for new lot creation, a condition always recommended is that cash in lieu of parkland fee. But otherwise, that would be the only fees associated with the township in terms of lot creation. If somebody were to develop the new lot at the point of development, they would pay development charges, but that would be separate from this procedure and application.
Right, thank you.
Are there any persons in attendance on Zoom who wish to make a comment?
I am seeing none.
Okay, so I will open it up. Dan, do you want to start?
I did a site visit and creation of a new lot. My only concern was the 0.37 acres of the severed lot, but if it meets the bylaw, there, it's clear. Like, I like bigger lots, but if it's 0.37 acres, it meets the bylaw, there's nothing we can do, and I support it.
Yeah, I did a site visit, sign was out. I have no concerns.
Thank you, Tom.
Again, I have no concerns with the application.
Yeah, it's an infill lot in a developed area, so it's neat homes again, and a lot will eventually make a home, will have a home built on it. I know you'll either have to remove some trees or work around trees there, and I know maybe you don't wanna, whoever's gonna develop the lot, I'd like to see as many trees left as possible, but I know you'll have
So
to.
do we.
You're gonna have to, some of them are gonna have to go, that's for certain.
And realistically, they're ash and they are dying.
They're dying anyways, yeah, so they're gonna have to go.
Yeah. Now, Christie has been planting trees in other places on the property.
Sure.
To replace
To
that.
replace them and to, just create different environments. So,
Buffer between the two.
Well, it's, okay, as I say, I'm complete agreement, because we need lots.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm in support of the application. I drove by it and it's a beautiful lot. It's gonna be nice to build on one day. So I'll put the recommended motion that, as presented on the staff report, that the application be approved with the recommended conditions. Moved by Dan, second by Tom, all in favor? And that motion's carried. Thank you. Okay. You can. leave it
You don't have to
to
stay
Dad.
any longer now, you got.
Right.
Yeah, because the rest is just gonna be boring for you.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, so we will proceed to section 5 of the agenda to discuss minutes from the last meeting. Please advise if you see any errors or omissions requiring a revision. Anybody?
I didn't see anything, any problem.
Perfect, seeing none, can I have a motion that the draft minutes from June 11th, 2024 read and be approved as presented?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Moved by Randy, second by Tom, all in favor?
I wasn't here.
Okay,
And then-
true. Oh, I wasn't here. No, I guess I can't vote either.
Okay. Still enough to carry.
Perfect. Newer unfinished business, seeing none, does anybody have any newer unfinished business to present?
Myself, I don't.
Perfect, then we will move to adjournment. Moved by member Dan McMillan, second by Dan Walker, that the committee of adjustment meet and adjourn at 10:26 a.m. on July 9, 2024. All in favor? That's great, thank you.